The Royals added another outfield bat over the weekend. What do we make of the move? We'll tell you in this edition of Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering what to expect from this channel, we bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length. And on Friday, it is dedicated to you, the listener, where it's just a mailbag episode. Any question you have, either reach out to me on Twitter or leave it below on one of these YouTube videos of the week, and I'll be sure to answer it during that 30-minute episode. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger win with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. It's been a while since we've talked about a big league acquisition for the Royals. It had been really over a month and a half that I can recall a major league deal move. Let's call it that. The Matt Strahm move to me was the last notable one. Yes, the Royals had made a couple of minor league deals here and there, and unless I'm blanking on somebody, that would have been the last major move by the Royals. That was until actually late on Friday night, I want to say it was, when there was a report coming out that the Royals and Starling Marte were close to a deal. Now, this was a little bit more interesting than the typical Jeff Passan tweet where it's breaking, the Royals have signed such and such. We know those guys have all the inside information of what front offices are wanting to do and which players are leaning toward what organizations. But this was kind of a fun one to track because it was first reported from Jansen Pujols on Twitter at Jansen Pujols that the Royals and Marte were close to a deal. And it came out very late on Friday. Like I had to double check to make sure that it was a legit tweet. It was from a legit source because you don't always see it that way. But obviously, this was somebody that had the inside info on Starling Marte. And we come to find out the next day around mid-afternoon that, from Mark Feinstein, but also first reported by Jansen Pujols, that the Royals had agreed to a one-year deal with Starling Marte, and it is a major league deal, not a minor league deal. So what does this mean for the Royals? How does this all shake out? And for starters, I will say this. Starling Marte is not taking at bats from anybody in that lineup. Like, they are not signing Starling Marte because they're not confident in Jack Caglione or they're not confident in Isaac Collins. This is purely a good depth move and bringing in a guy that last year, if you put those numbers in the Royals outfield, they would have been the best numbers that anybody produced over a 100-game stretch. Now, Marte, at 37 years old, is no longer an everyday player. So even if he does thrive early on in the season, that's not signaling to Matt Quatraro and the Royals coaching staff to play him over Collins or play him over Caglione. If anything, this gives insurance to a guy like Jack Caglione, where if he goes out there and struggles in April, they can turn to somebody who was an above-average bat last year and really entering his mid-30s a couple of years ago, he still put up good seasons. He put up good numbers. He was good for his time with the Mets when he was healthy. He had a good run with the Athletics. We, of course, know all about his time with the Pirates as well. This is a guy that is a even hitter, either facing lefties or righties. Now, I put out there on Twitter that I see him as a platoon option. I think some people misconstrued that with him being a true platoon partner like we're going to see in center with Isbell and Thomas. That's not going to be the case here. But what it allows Matt Quatraro to do is against tough lefties, you're not forcing Jack Caglione in the lineup every single day. At the end of the day, he is somebody coming off a year in which he hit sub 180. And I don't know if it's the best thing to go into the year saying he's an everyday player. And if it doesn't work out, then, oh, well, we're just going to continue to make him play through it. I want to see Jack Caglione out there for 140 to 150 games this year. But there's a right and wrong way in going about his development and his maturity. It is always a good thing to have a fallback option, where that's really for the Royals as a team here. Well, best case scenario, Cags opens the year on fire, looks great, you never look back. But Marte is a good bench bat to have. He can spell Caglione against a tough lefty. If Isaac Collins needs a day off, Starling Marte can play. He can spell Carter Jensen against a tough lefty as a DH in that lineup. And the other part to this, which leads me to my next argument of why it's a good move for the Royals. Would you rather have Starling Marte as an option off the bench, or would you rather have Nick Loftin or Dairon Blanco? Now, Nick Loftin could still make the roster, and I've seen a couple of people say that he would still be their pick to make the roster as a utility guy. My front runner is Josh Rojas, just because with the defensive versatility, early performance, he's hitting the ball well, he's striking the ball pretty hard, and that to me has put him in the top spot. We're also 10 games into spring training. Nick Loftin could without question take that spot from him. But this does shore up 3 spots on the bench. And if I'm the Royals, I'm only carrying 13 position players, 9 starters, 4 guys on the bench. Michael Massey, Lane Thomas, and now Starling Marte have those 3. It's a much better bench than you had a year ago because there's certain things these guys do well. We know Lane Thomas can hit lefties. We know Michael Massey's a good defensive option at second base and now can play a little bit of the outfield. Starling Marte is the best bat of the bunch, and you can use him late in the game. You also can start him, but I'm not wanting to see Starling Marte out there for 130 games this year. That would just be malpractice, in my opinion. He played 98 games last year. He was an above-average bat for the Mets. I'd shoot for that total. He is 37 years old. There is no reason to overexpose Starling Marte or take at bats away from Caglione or Jensen or Collins because he starts the year well. This is somebody that can start for you, can start against tough lefties, but also he can start against righties. He's not like Lane Thomas, who's more so tailored toward crushing lefties and not that great against right-handed pitching. It was a good move, though. I'm not going to be upset by it, and I've said this before over the last 24 hours, so I guess I haven't said it to you guys yet that have been listening. But you have somebody here that raises the floor of the bench, and that's probably been my term of the offseason in raising the floor. There just were so many guys on the bench last year that you didn't know if they were going to give you much. You were hopeful, and you said, okay, well, if Nick Loftin can get rolling, I like him in that spot. Or if Tyler Tolbert can get rolling, I like him in that spot. And Tolbert has his strengths of being a pinch runner and a base stealer. He's also very versatile defensively, and he did hit 280 last year. I also want to see more guys on the bench that have done it for an extended period of time at the big league level. And a guy like Starling Marte does make your bench a lot better. And it's how you view it, too. I know there will be people in the comment section going, I hate it. 37-year-old outfielder, makes no sense to bring him in if he's not going to be an everyday player. And that's where I'd say I'm going to push back a little bit. It would be a negative move, in my opinion, if you brought in Starling Marte to start over Collins or over Jack Caglione. This is to give those guys insurance. If you view this as a bench option, and somebody that can play anywhere from 90 to 100 games for you and hit 270, have an OPS plus of 111, that is a solid move. It's comparable, in my opinion, to what Mike Yastrzemski brought the Royals. And even Mike Yastrzemski hit in the 220s when it was all said and done. Yet he was an above-average bat when you looked at OPS plus and WRC plus, and that's what it is with Starling Marte. He's not as good of a defender as Mike Yastrzemski. He's also no longer as versatile as a guy like Mike Yastrzemski was, but you bring in somebody who is bat first. And you didn't have many bat first guys on the bench last year. And I don't know exactly when this deal is going to be finalized. To me, though, this is a guy that in April, if you wanted to take the route of let's make sure Caglione's our starter and let's make sure our Jensen's our starter, but if there are some games where we can give them a break and take that pressure off them being an everyday guy, Starling Marte's a good option to pivot to, where if you didn't have him, you'd be looking at Nick Lofton or Dyrone Blanco or Tyler Tolbert being the guy to replace him. And Marte is an upgrade over all three of those guys. And it's not a super expensive deal. I'm sure that it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark of $2 to $6 million on a 1-year deal. And you're not viewing him as a guy to change the lineup. You're viewing him as a guy to give you another option if one of these young players doesn't start the year as well. Think about last year when guys were struggling and MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe were not playing up to standard. They didn't have anybody to pivot to. They had to go down to AAA and get Drew Waters to come in, who was fine for a point in time. They want to make sure, though, there's another guy to pivot to if Caglione or Jensen or Collins is either not 100% or they're not playing well to begin the year. Because sometimes just making them play through struggles, I see the benefits to it. It also can be hurting your team if they're really not playing well, right? Last year, there was an extended period of time where Jack Caglione and that average and him learning right field was a liability to the team. But you wanted him to play through it because there were no other options. Now you have somebody who's an experienced, seasoned vet who put up good numbers last year and is projected to do the same in a limited role for Kansas City in 2026. Did you like the signing of Starling Marte over the weekend? Let us know in the YouTube comments below. When we come back, the Royals were finally on TV on Saturday afternoon, and they dominated the Rockies. But in my opinion, I was more stoked to see someone like Cole Ragans on the mound, and his stuff looked really good in his first outing of spring training. We'll dive into that next on Locked On Royals. It's easy to celebrate that strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being. And honestly, that goes for all of us. I want to tell you a little bit more about Betterhelp. And March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships, in families, and in all the unseen roles they step into every single day. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Again, that's Locked On NBA over at BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. We are back here on Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and we're now the #1 sports podcasting network out there. Before our second segment, I want to tell you about the Everydayer Club, and you can get Locked On Royals episodes ad-free with the Everydayer Club. All you need to do is scroll down below, click on that URL link in the show notes, and you will get those episodes ad-free if you're listening on those podcasting platforms. And you also get access to the Discord chat, where a bunch of people are going to be signing up, joining in on this big Royals group chat, and you guys can talk back and forth. I'll try to be as active as possible, but there are some fun things you can get if you are that diehard listener. And, if you have all of these, new ways of watching the show, it also makes it a more enjoyable experience as we gear up for the regular season. One more time, scroll down below, click on that URL link, and they're going to be able to take you from there. I know a lot of you were happy over the weekend to see the Royals on your TV. They were streamed on MLB Network. It was also the Royals app as well. And you got to see an absolute bludgeoning of the Colorado Rockies. And if you're into that sort of stuff and getting fired up about spring training wins, then Saturday was perfect for you. You did get to see a grand slam in the first inning by Nick Lofton. You saw a 116.5-mile-an-hour double from Jack Caglione. Couple other homers later on in the game, and it was all off of old friend Michael Lorenzen, which did pain me because I like Michael Lorenzen a lot, and I want him to be one of the better arms for Colorado. And who knows? Trade deadline comes around again. The Royals need another swing starter. I would never hate to see Michael Lorenzen back in Kansas City, but it was a rough one for him. He might have been working on some stuff, which made it easier for the Royals to tee off on him. And so really from a number standpoint, a statistical standpoint, you take away maybe everything with a grain of salt and go 16 runs is all fine and dandy, but there were a lot of hittable pitches out there. And the Royals did what you're supposed to do with those hittable pitches and put a charge in them. But on the pitching side of things, we got to see Cole Ragans go out there, and I thought his stuff looked really, really good. And to me, I don't care about the ERA for Cole Ragans in spring training. I don't care about the strikeout numbers in spring training. I am just looking at the pure stuff, and I'm focusing on his health because that needs to be a main takeaway when watching a guy like him, or takeaways, I should say. If his stuff looks as good as it did on Saturday, the rest of the way, I got no reason to doubt what Cole Ragans is capable of doing in 2026. And it's not that spring training tells you everything. I just spent the first 2 to 3 minutes of this segment talking about how the numbers really don't matter at the end of the day. If he leaves camp, though, healthy and feels good, and he's not fighting mechanics, the stuff is there. The stuff's going to play up to be a frontline guy. And I've stood by my take of the only thing that can get in the way of Cole Ragans being a top 5 arm in the American League is durability, is his health. And he made the mature decision and sitting out of the World Baseball Classic, which now, considering all the guys that are going to be leaving early, Tarek Skubal's making like 1 start and throwing 55 pitches. Joe Ryan's hurt. He's not going to be able to throw. There would have been an opportunity for him to start, so I'm sure he's bummed about that. He wants to have that normal buildup, though. And in start number 1, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't anxious at all or I wasn't nervous, because we've seen now with pretty much everybody in this rotation, them have this slower buildup. Nobody's going out there and maxing out. Noah Cameron today was throwing 90 to 91 with his fastball. And no, I'm not concerned by it. And he didn't look all that good. You're working on certain things. And you're not airing it out at 98, 99 or trying to max out in a measly Monday afternoon spring training game against the Angels. When it comes to Cole Ragans, though, we've seen him have these unbelievable spring training starts going back the last 2 years. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, he had a start where he was throwing it at 100 to 101. I mean, his arm just felt incredibly good. And what happened that year? Well, he threw north of 190 innings, struck out north of 200, and was a top 5 arm in the American League. Last year, he had a pretty fine buildup. There was no concerns there, and then he just never looked right from the get-go. And though I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he said, I felt great leaving camp last year, felt as good as I did in 2024. It kind of has that sense that out of this camp, this is the best he's felt. And it's going to be such a focus to make sure that everything goes according to plan. He worked his tail off to rehab and get back on the mound to close out the year, where some guys would say, why wouldn't I just take the rest of the year off? Why wouldn't I just go into the offseason, be 100% and not worry about it whatsoever, right? There was that risk at the end of 2025 that he returned to the mound and then got hurt again, and then therefore delayed the beginning of his offseason. Yet he worked his tail off to rehab, get back out on the mound, and in the final month of the year, he looked like vintage Cole Ragans. Whether you want to buy into that or not, it leads me back to my point that when he feels good, when he's healthy, and his stuff is on point, he is going to be a top arm in this game. He is going to be a workhorse. He is going to be your strikeout guy, your 200 strikeout pitcher, which everybody needs, every contender needs at the front of the rotation. When you don't have that, it puts so much more pressure on your offense to win in October. And last year, though the Royals were in the hunt for, I would say, a chunk of the second half, they really bottomed out toward the beginning of September. It made it difficult to climb out of that hole where they were chasing Cleveland and Detroit and Boston and Houston. I mean, they just put themselves in a bad spot. When I look at the greatest rotations out there, though, and I look at the teams that can make a deep run in October, you almost always need that true number one. And there's nobody else in this rotation that has the upside to be a number one like him. Velocity plays a part in this, and he was throwing 97, 98 on Saturday afternoon. Do I want to see him throw it that hard for all of his spring training starts? I don't. I'd totally live with 95 and 96 with consistency as long as it stays around that 95 to 96. Whenever he's down in 93 to 94, not saying it's worrisome, but coming off a year where he was injured, my red flag would go up just to make sure everything's all right. And if he does break camp, feeling all right, looking good, stuff looks good, they get back that guy in the rotation. Now, I know a couple of you, too, that have been listening for a long time. You're not as high on Cole Ragans. you think that 2024 is the outlier and he is an injury-prone starter. What I can say that maybe it's not even refutable, that when he's healthy, he is a great arm. That to me has always been a constant. And yes, durability and availability is measured in a player. It kind of gets lumped in with how talented you are. You can be a great player. If you're never available, well, you're not much of a great player. I wouldn't want to see, though, 2025 overshadow just how good he's been since joining the Royals. He was fantastic in 2023 when he got traded over. He was fantastic in 2024 and great in the postseason. And yet in 2025, I would hate to see the trust in Cole Ragans fall off a cliff just because he dealt with two separate injuries. Now, he goes into this year and he's hurt and he only makes 10 to 15 starts. Well, then now we get back to that point of, all right, is he just an injury-prone guy? And do you start looking to somebody else in the offseason of being your true number one? The stuff, though, is going to lead the way for him. He gives you 200 innings this year or even just 180. I got no doubt in my mind the numbers are going to look good. That's how high I'm in Cole Ragans. I'm buying more stock in him. You can call me a homer for that. You can call me very pro Cole Ragans. I know we have some anti-Cole Ragans people in the comment section. I'm much higher on him than maybe you are. Now, where do you stand when it comes to Cole Ragans? Do you have big expectations for him going into 2026, or do you see him battling through more injuries or just never really returning to form that he had in 2024? Let us know in the YouTube comments below. When we come back, another Royal is joining a team in the World Baseball Classic. Who is it and what will their role be? We'll tell you next on Locked On Royals. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your bet. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We are wrapping up this Monday edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson. You want to follow me? You can do so on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. We did also have more news over the weekend where Luinder Avila is joining the World Baseball Classic for Team Venezuela. He threw on Sunday for the Royals and wasn't all that spectacular, but he is now another young arm that Royals fans get to watch, and he might have that opportunity to shine for Team Venezuela, who's still top 5 in betting odds or being a betting favorite to win the World Baseball Classic, which begins this week. Now, Team USA will play on Friday. If you're into watching Team Italy, they play on Saturday. So does Team USA again as well. They have Brazil and Great Britain as their first two matchups. So, yes, baseball season is, it already kind of was upon us. The World Baseball Classic, though, gives us that real baseball feel. Great atmospheres, great competition. We know that Team USA is the betting favorite going into this one. We found out from Andy Rogers via Matt Quatrero that Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be leading off for Team USA, which is why he was leading off in the last couple of games before he headed down just training camp for Team USA. This is more so about Luinder Avila, though, and him being a late addition, which isn't the worst thing in the world. He's been having a normal build-up in camp, and this gives him that opportunity, even if he doesn't break camp with the Royals, to showcase a lot. And you guys saw from some of my reports out of Surprise, Arizona, how high Mac Quatrero is on a guy like Luinder Avila, viewing him as a frontline starter down the road. He might have some opportunities to start for Team Venezuela. I'd be surprised if he did. There might have to be a couple of hiccups along the way for Team Venezuela. So he will probably start in more of a long relief role for the bullpen. And in this tournament, you do need those guys, and you need those guys to be effective. His stuff, though, should absolutely play up in a tournament like this. And this is the fun stuff to follow, because we saw with both Carlos Estevez. I mean, he will be pitching for Team DR, but the last time the World Baseball Classic was happening was 2023. So Carlos Hernandez is who I was trying to think of there. He pitched for Team Venezuela, and his stuff was ridiculous. Now, it never really translated to success for multiple years in Kansas City. He was okay in 2023. Then when he took over the permanent closer's role when they moved Scott Barlow, he just didn't have the stuff anymore. But I thought it gave him a good leg up to begin the year. Pitching in that atmosphere against competition like that, it only bettered him. And Carlos Hernandez back then draws some comparison to Luinder Avila, or vice versa there. Luinder Avila draws some comparison to Carlos Hernandez, where as a young arm, he's got the pure stuff. And Carlos Hernandez moved up rather quickly in the Royals organization. A guy that made the jump from, I want to say, high A to the big leagues in the COVID year. Luinder Avila moved rather quickly through the system. Now, he's a guy that they scouted as an international prospect. Now he's one of those players, though, where is he really better suited for AAA, or is the stuff good enough to be in the Royals bullpen when they break camp at the end of March? To me, the World Baseball Classic is going to give us a better measurement than maybe spring training would have. Because if he goes out there and pitches well, and his 95-96 plays up 97-98, I know that atmosphere is not going to be equivalent for April baseball in the regular season. The stuff, the spin, right, the movement, the horizontal run to his fastball sink action, and then his curveball, which is his best pitch, that all looks good in the World Baseball Classic and games they're trying to win when they're facing other greats around the sport. That's where you can make a name for yourself. And no doubt in my mind, the Royals are going to be watching these games intently. Because as for everybody else there, where you have Estevez with Team DR, you got Seth Lugo for Team Puerto Rico, you've got Salvi and Michael, you've got Bobby for Team USA and Michael Waka. What do all those guys have in common? Now, I'll throw Vinny Pasquantino in here for Team Italy. All those guys have secure spots on the roster, and we know what their role is going to be. The reason I didn't include Jack Caglione there is this, to me, can show everybody out there maybe how ready he really is. Now, it is going to be an adjustment. It's going to be a shift. We saw MJ Melendez play well for Team Puerto Rico in the 2023 World Baseball Classic, and it didn't really translate over into 2023. But for Caglione as a position player and Luinder Avila as a bullpen arm for Team Venezuela, those two guys can make the most out of this opportunity. I want to see every Royal do well, but everybody else I just mentioned, other than Caglione and Luinder Avila, they aren't going to change my opinion of how good they are or what to expect from them in 2026 based on how they do in the tournament. For some reason, I'm kind of viewing it that way for Caglione and Avila. Avila goes out there and is a X factor for Team Venezuela's bullpen, a team that, as I brought up, has top 5 betting odds to win the tournament, and Caglione looks good when Team Italy plays. I got a little bit more juice going into the regular season. I like a little bit more of what those two guys might bring you. And for him to be this late addition, it does him wonders compared to what he would have gotten down in Surprise. Yes, he might have been able to start a game or two. He might have been able to go in extended relief out of the bullpen. This is better, though. He's going to be pitching in front of sold-out crowds. Players going crazy. He's going to be facing the best of the best out there. And you're not having that in Surprise right now. With all these players going to the World Baseball Classic, him dominating against AAA and AA guys in Arizona doesn't do it for me. Him going out there and throwing big innings against Team DR or Team Puerto Rico or Team Japan or Team USA, that to me would signal a better start to the year for Luinder Avila than he would have been if he got 2 to 3 innings per outing pitching against minor leaguers in Arizona. Are you excited about seeing Luinder Avila for Team Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic? Let us know in the YouTube comments below. That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Royals ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to the URL link below to join the club. And for those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Until tomorrow, you take it easy, Kansas City.